Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of On Pattison Podcast. I'm Bob Cooney, Anthony SanFilippo with me. If Anthony looks a little tired, he was doing some celebrating. We're watching some celebration last night, I should say. Watching the Flyers clinch a playoff spot. Ant, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Bob, this is our first time doing a show, just you and me. Like I've been on with you, right? But I've been on when you've been on, but not just you and me doing the show. So it's really kind of cool to be doing with you. And yeah, I'm going to jump into last night, but I just want to thank our presenting sponsor, Wapner Newman, the City of Champions, who deserve champion legal representation. Wapner Newman is PA and New Jersey's premier medical malpractice and injury attorneys. Call them at 215-569-0900 or visit wapnernewman.com. Yeah, Bob, last night was cool. And it was cool. And I say that, look, I'm a reporter and I cover the team, and we're supposed to be objective at all times, right? And I am. I can equally praise the team and criticize the team at any time, right?
Sure.
But what I mean by cool last night was the city finally got to celebrate hockey again. And that's what's cool, because you remember back in the day when the Flyers were good year in and year out. Like they were part of this, like the fabric of this city.
Yeah.
They were talked about constantly. Every newspaper wrote about them. The talk radio we only had one real talk radio station back then. They talked about them all the time. Like the Flyers were an it factor in this city. You remember the people driving around with the flags on the cars and everything else? Like whatever. Like there was so much. And then it just went away. For 10 years, it went away. You know, Ed Snyder dies. The new owner, the new management group comes in. They sucked. Like, let's be honest, they were terrible, right? The team got bad, and for a decade, they were no good. And then, you know, you listen to Keith Jones and Danny Briere and Dan Hilferty as he became the new CEO. So, look, we're not going to be Ed Snyder and Bob Clark and those guys, but we're going to lean on the traditions that they created to bring this back. And here in year 3 of this rebuild, they finally got it done last night. And they were celebrating like a bunch of little kids on the ice. The crowd was going nuts. There were "Let's Go Flyers" chants as you walked out of the building instead of EAGLES, which you always get at the end of the Flyers season, right? And you were getting that last night. And the city was celebrating. My son, Anthony, was at the Phillies game last night. And he said the Phillies game ended and about 600-700 people poured into McFadden's at the ballpark to watch the overtime and the shootout of the Flyers game. And he said they all went nuts. And he said it was just, so it's cool. It's like a shared social experience. And so that to me is exciting. Like that's what I think is the best part about it. Whether they win or lose in the playoffs, we'll wait and see. But the fact that they are back in the sports conversation, part of the sports lexicon of Philadelphia again, that's the cool thing.
Yeah, and a lot of people, Ant, that are maybe watching this, younger people, they don't know what playoff hockey is really like in this town.
I know.
I go back. I'm a little older than you. I think I said this before. Flyers won their first cup at my first Holy Communion. So I saw that. Like I was a sports fanatic at 6-7 years old, however old I was.
Yeah.
But like I remember that. Then I remember being like in my 20s, and in the 80s, the Flyers going to the finals against Edmonton and the Lindros and all that stuff. But it was so cool because I was in my 20s. Like you're at a bar down the shore, Flyers are on. Like it's craziness. Playoff hockey is so much fun in this city. And I think all around, playoff hockey is great. I could turn on a game between I don't care who, and playoff hockey is just that. But the fact that there's going to be a lot of people maybe watching us now, or people that read us a lot, that have never really experienced what playoff hockey is like in this town, off the ice as well as on it, I think is something that they're really going to cherish.
Yeah, and I want to pop up a couple comments. Like Steve Vickers says, "What a dub!" You know, with the orange and black hearts. That's awesome. Jay Sporman says, "It's going to be a fun couple weeks ahead. Hopefully, more like a few weeks." And I agree completely. But like, I look at my kids, Bob. Right, my kids are between the ages of 24 and 30, and the Flyers have made the playoffs in the last decade, right? A couple times. They haven't really been a playoff contender, though. It's since I want to say 2012 was the last time. right?
Yeah.
That they were really they won a round over the Penguins, they lost in the second round. But that was the last time you looked at that team and said they have a chance to do something. So we're talking 14 years. So my kids are between, like I said, between the ages of 24 and 30. My oldest son, yeah, he remembers 2010 because he was a teenager, so it was cool for him. But
Sure.
my daughter and my younger son, they're grown adults now, and they barely remember that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they were around, but they don't remember like the excitement of it. So, like, you're right. It's not just younger kids. It's a generation of young adults too that have not really experienced what playoff hockey is like in Philadelphia when it's good.
And even that, and here's a good story. We took like a long weekend up in the Poconos, my wife and our kids and all. So the Flyers were in the Cup Finals in 10 against Chicago. And the same night, Roy Halladay pitches his perfect game against Miami.
100%.
Right? So my oldest son, my kids are the same age as yours. My oldest son locked himself in our hotel room. This is serious. He is such a baseball fan that he said, nobody's allowed to come in here. We cannot change the aura of what's going on. Everybody stay away. I'm watching Roy Halladay. A couple of my other sons and daughter and my wife, we were down in the lobby watching the Flyers. You know, it's the finals. I got to watch the Flyers. And I think that was like a crazy, like 7-6 game or something between the Flyers and the Blackhawks, you know, whatever it was. But you're right. Now, my oldest is 30, still a huge baseball fan, didn't get in on that Flyer stuff because he was watching Roy Halladay. Yeah. And my younger kids were only, 16, were 7 and 8 at the time or something. So you're right. The playoff hit of hockey really hasn't resonated here. And this group of Flyers right now, maybe they're going to bring that in.
Yeah, I think so. And you know, I'm going to give you one other story about that day that you just talked about. So I'm in Chicago that day. I'm covering the Flyers in the Stanley Cup final. And I was working for the Delaware County Times at the time. And my editor then was Rob Parent, who I know you know pretty well. And Rob was there in Chicago. So it was me, Rob, and Jack McCaffrey, who was our columnist. So the three of us were there covering the Stanley Cup final. And all of a sudden I'm sitting on my computer and I'm like following along with the Phillies game. And at one point I turned to Rob and I said, "Hey, Rob, Halladay's got a perfect game through 5." And he goes, he ain't gonna do it. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, we need to start to think about what that back page is going to look like tomorrow. if the Flyers win this game and Halladay throws a perfect game or a no-hitter, he's like, don't worry. Flyers are going to lead. It got to like this late in the 7th inning, and I looked at Bob, I looked at Rob, and I said, "Hey, Rob, I think Halladay is going to be the guy. Like, we're going to have to do a split back page if the Flyers, because we didn't know what going on in the Flyers game at that point. Like, we were going back and forth, and then obviously the Flyers lose. Halladay pitches the perfect game, so Halladay gets the back page. But man, we were like touch and go, making like alternate decisions. It was fun. It was fun. I was watching a hockey game and a baseball game at the same time. It was great.
That was like the height of newspaper, right? Where you're juggling back pages. You're probably like that Flyers game. Wasn't it a high scoring, like a 7-6 game or something?
I think the final, I don't remember exactly. I think the final was 6-4.
Okay. Yeah. I thought it was kind of
it was back and forth for a while, the whole game. I think they kept tying it, and then Chicago took the lead and they got a late goal to seal it, if I remember correctly. But it was a high scoring game.
All right, so let's talk about this current team. Last night, what happened? I mean, that was just so much fun to watch last night. And you were there. I'm sitting on my couch watching it. You know, you think you're going to go. The Phillies came through. With a blowout, so you didn't have to worry about them, so you could turn them off kind of quickly. But Vladar last night, probably the team MVP. You look, Michkov gets the goal. What a pass by Porter Martone on the Zegras goal. So many little factors in the game. They get behind 2-0. They come back. Grittiness abound, but still some concerns, and we'll hit on them a little bit later. But just talk about last night of what you saw. A Carolina team that's really good. Rod Brindamore, of course, is who he is. Maybe gave them a little bit of a favor, meaning the Flyers in the shootout. But what did you see from the Flyers last night? They come back from 2-0. That maybe encapsulates what this team is all about.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to like about that game, Bob, with the way that they came back. So the first thing I want to point out is they've never not been good all year. And really, this is a thing throughout the sport of hockey. It's not just a Flyers thing, but you come back, first home game after a long road trip is usually a dud. More often than not is a dud.
No question.
And when I saw the way that they came out in the first period, they looked a little tight. They look a little sluggish. And I'm like, oh no, like this is not the way you want to play this game. You don't want this to come down to game 82. Like you have this opportunity right here in front of you. You got to go get it. Then the second period, everything changed. And they looked like that team again. They looked like the team that's been playing out of its mind since the Olympic break. And I'll tell you who it was that got this started. It was Denver Barkey.
Yeah.
Denver Barkey was having that, their line all told, Cates, Barkey, Mishkov, I thought for a whole, as a group, had a really, really good game. But Barkey was all over the place. And he was making plays happen and even before Mishkov's goal, he was making stuff happen. And then you're looking there going, boo, this kid wants to win. This 20-year-old kid is out here and he's trying to show them, get on my back, guys. This is how we need to play to get back in this game. And then he makes the pass to Mishkov. Now, what a lot of people maybe don't see on TV, because Mishkov, how does Mishkov get so wide open on the far side of the ice? Martone was actually out there at the end of a long shift.
Right.
He couldn't get off the ice. Finally, he actually makes a nice play to kind of keep the puck in play behind the net. And then once the Flyers get possession, he goes off. And then it's like Noah Cates and Barkey are like making a play along the far wall. All of a sudden, Mishkov comes right off the bench. Barkey's got incredible awareness that player is there and there's nobody covering him because he was not there 2 seconds ago, and just puts the puck on his tape across the ice, and Mishkov scores a goal. Like that kind of awareness from a 20-year-old kid, like you don't normally see that for a guy who's a third-round pick at age 20 in a game of this magnitude. So like that's the first thing that stood out to me. And then from there, they played for the better part of a period, the second period, the start of the third. They played a great game. Got a little tight towards the end, but
and I want to talk about that a little bit, but also in the big picture, the play that you just mentioned, Martone, 19 years old, smart enough to get the puck caddy corner, back corner of where he was, so he's closest to the bench, so he can get his butt off. You have Barkey, 20 years old, who controls the puck, right? Controls the puck, has his eyes up enough to see. Here comes 21-year-old Michkov off the bench, goes straight to a perfect passing lane. Barkey gets it to him, boom. There's the huge goal that you needed, being down 2-0. Man, like I'm sitting here last night, and I'm going, wow, future bright. I mean, just three guys right there, right? I mean, is this like a kind of a microcosm of maybe what the future of this team is?
Yeah, it is. I mean, and we would be remiss to not mention, the second goal and then the ultimate game-winning goal in the shootout, because those also involve plays of guys who are young guys, right? I mean, Martone, again, he makes the pass to Zegras on the tying goal. Zegras is 24, right? It's not like he's old. He's young. He's 24, right? And then Tyson Forster scores the shootout goal, and
24.
He's 24. Like, you look at it and go, okay, this is legit. Like, there's talent here. And it's funny because yesterday I'd read a story in The Athletic, and every year they do a ranking of top prospects. It's the way that they do it. It's weird because it's not just guys that are not in the league. It is guys that are in the league too. And they have like some weird parameters, how they determine who gets on the list and who doesn't. Point being, there's 32 teams in the NHL, and they do a top 100. The Flyers have 6 of the top 100 players on that list. Porter Martone ranked number 2.
Is that right? Wow.
Yes. Now, Mishkov's not on the list because he's played 2 full seasons in the NHL.
Oh, he's a cagey veteran at 21.
Right, he's a cagey veteran, right? And so, but that's the thing. Like, you look at it and go, not only are you talking about the young players that are playing right now and doing it, but they also have 4 or 5 guys that are coming. Like, this team's going to be good for a bit. They still have holes. There's things they need to fix for sure. And there's positions that they need to fill for sure. but it's not as bad as people maybe thought it was 3 months ago.
No, not at all. And last night I thought this was weird. And a buddy brought this up to me this morning when he calls me a hockey junkie. Had a son play Division I hockey, all that stuff. But he calls me and his first question, he's like, "Yo, Coon, 3 stars. Who's the person that picks out the 3 stars of the game?" And I said, "I don't know. It used to be the beat writers. Yeah. I don't know if they hired somebody to do it now." Now, this is a minor thing. But his thing was that Dan Vladar was not one of the 3 stars last night.
Bob, we said it on the press row show last night after the game, and I know who picked the stars, and I have no problem. Yeah. I'll put it out there because I'm going to have him on the show. I'm going to have him on the press row show tonight to say, "What the hell are you thinking?" And it's a good buddy of ours. It's somebody I bring on to the show all the time because he's really, really smart hockey guy. Is NHL.com's Adam Kimmelman, and Adam picked the 3 stars, and I was like, "How did you not pick Vladar?"
Yeah,
like, Vladar's the difference in the game last night. He's been the difference all season, but last night, especially like late in the first period and then overtime and shootout, he's the reason they win the game.
Yeah,
he's the commentator. I don't know how he wasn't a star. He should have been the first star in my mind. I understand why you make 4 sort of regulate. When people don't understand sometimes when you pick the stars, they make you pick the stars with 5 minutes to go in regulation, right? I don't know why. I mean, everything's digital now. Back in the old days, it used to be, we need the stars with 5 minutes to go because we got to call downstairs and give it to them. So, you give it to the guy and then, he has to get on the phone and they answer the phone downstairs and they write it down, right? So I get it, right? Now it's a form. Like when I pick the stars, it's an online form. So just give the person, give Lou Nolan,
and they have it, right?
Just give Lou Nolan access to the form, and he can say tonight's 3-star selection, and it's right there. So like I can type it in a moment's notice, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, but they still make you pick the stars with 5 minutes to go. And usually when you have a game like last night where it's tied, you give them scenarios, and a lot of times we get lazy because we're busy working, right? Other things we have to worry about, and you say, all right, game-winning goals going to be the first star, and then winning goalies the second star, whatever the parameters are that you come up with. Yeah. That's what you do. So I don't like to really kill anybody.
No, I mean it's not a big thing.
But at the same time, how do you not give Vladar a star last night?
Well, let's talk about him a little bit because, as you said, this season and guys were talking about it on TV last night, MVP of the team, and he's been he's 28 years old. He's kind of been around a little bit, Calgary and Boston. But this year, by far, if you look at his stats, he's played way more than he's played in any other season. 52 games. I think he started like 51 of them, something like that. But is this a guy at 28? And, in hockey, you look at the guys we've talked about, 20, 21, 22, 24. But with goalies, does their prime kind of come a little bit later, Ant? Like at 28, is Dan Vladar kind of maybe hitting his stride and maybe the goalie of the future for this team?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Yeah, do you every once in a while get a young goalie who comes in and they're great from the time that they're young and to all the way through the rest of their career? Sure. But it doesn't happen that often, right? I mean, those guys are fewer and far between. Usually goalies develop later. It's usually about 26, 27 when you really first start to see a goalie and go, okay, this guy's legit. Vladar maybe a little bit more of a late bloomer, but not necessarily that it's a late bloomer, maybe that he didn't have the opportunities, right? So in Boston, he was a backup. In Calgary, he was a backup. But the thing that the Flyers identified, and so I got to give them a lot of credit, and especially their goalie coach, Kim Dillabaugh, because I asked Danny Briere about this, and he said it was Dillabaugh's call on a lot of this, was that they went back and watched his games. And Calgary, they had a rookie goalie last year, Dustin Wolf, who was called a trophy guy. And they protected him a little bit. So what they would do is they would play Vladar on the back end of back-to-backs when they knew the team would be a little tired. Right. They would play Vladar against the tougher teams out west, right, to kind of protect the rookie goalie. And so when you looked at Vladar's final numbers, maybe they didn't jump off the page at you as great. But then when you look at the situations that he was put into and then look at those numbers and go, oh, okay, this guy might be a little bit more here than maybe he's had, that anybody else sees. Flyers had an opportunity, offered him a chance to come in and prove himself, and that's all he's done. Bob, 33 games this year, 2 goals or less.
Incredible. Yeah. And exactly what this team needed. Sam Ersson, like last year, was fine at times, but It was still that, I don't know type of thing. Now it seems like you have that, okay, that's who he is type of thing with Vladar. And it's pretty amazing. The 28 years old stuck out to me in a good way. Like, okay, maybe here's a guy that now he's ready for this chance. And he's done nothing but prove himself. Like that save. The save that he had at the end of regulation, right? Where the one-timer on the left wing.
Yeah.
So he had the slide. It was so cool because it wasn't your typical goalie save where, okay, I have to save it, but I have to keep my body in position in case the puck goes somewhere. No, it was like, I don't care what I have to do. I am drowning this puck.
Right.
And the way he moved over and got it and all, I just thought he was spectacular last night.
Yeah, he was. And as Ford, our good buddy Ford, you'll find out, by the way, doing the show more regularly, Ford is in here all the time. He always wants to be mentioned in some capacity. But Ford says what's really cool to see and feel is that the players give a crap. They're into it. They want to win. And that's exactly the kind of play you're talking about. What was Vladar. And it was funny. There was a save, and it wasn't a big save, but it was in the third period. I want to say early in the third period. Vladar makes a save, and he looked up at the guy who shot it, and he just shook his head. Like,
oh, really? I didn't pick that up on TV.
Just a little head shake. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't a big save. It was kind of right at him. And he shook his head, and it was like, this is a guy that gets it, and he wants to win, and he's pushing harder than anybody else. Like it's awesome.
He's got a little Dikembe Mutombo in him, huh?
A little bit of a finger wag.
Okay.
With the head.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
So one of the other things I wanted to bring up to you, since you were around it last year, Ant, was the turnaround this year with Rick Tocchet. You brought up, and it's so funny, you brought up Flyers past, and for so many years, people were like, would you stop bringing back the old hats? Stop with the Bobby Clarks and the Bill Barbers and the Paul Holmgrens and the Craig Berubes and the but with Keith Jones, with Danny Briere, and now with Rick Tocchet as head coach, you can see where the naysayers are like, what do they keep doing? But it has changed. What's the difference with Tocchet compared to last year with the way Tortorella kind of treated this team? Because besides like Martone and Vladar and Zegras, there isn't much change. But how has Tocchet changed this team? Because you were around both guys, Ant.
Yeah, I think that the answer to this is that Rick Tocchet and John Tortorella both coach similar styles. In all honesty, they really do. There's not a lot different between the way they both focus on defense first, the way you play your system in your own end, and then create your offense based off of that defensive posture. So that's kind of how they both coach. I think the difference between the two is Torts is more in your face about it and he likes to create the drama about it. He feels he can pull more out of players that way. Whereas Tocchet is a guy who wants to talk to you about it. And he wants to have a conversation with you about it. He wants your input on it. He says, hey, listen, here's what I'm seeing. What are you seeing? And let's have a collaborative approach to it. And maybe I'm right. Maybe you're right. We'll figure it out, right? In time, we'll get there. But let's play it out. Let's have, he engenders that kind of collaborative approach. And I think the players love it. Today's athlete does not respond to the tough, hard-nosed coach anymore. They just don't. It's a generational thing, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we liked it, Bob. Maybe we liked having
that's all we knew.
Maybe we liked having bosses who were, always telling us how much we sucked, and that would make us want to be better at what we did, right? Today's generation does not want that. They want validation. They want they seek acceptance and approval of everything, and positive vibes. I get it. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean you're soft. It's just that's how this generation is. And Rick Tocchet, even though he's an older guy, older for, coach, 61, he gets it. He gets that. And I think that's why the players love him. That's why players like playing for him.
And it says a lot about Tocchet, because look at people watching this probably don't remember because they didn't see it or whatever. But Tocchet was tough as hell when he played, and he played under Mike Keenan, who was tough as hell, was in your face. He grew up in hockey that way. To be able to change his ways is pretty cool. And like Tortorella, in the few times that I talked to him, I was really trying to figure him out. And he and I had a conversation one time, and I must have brought up a couple of things. We got done our interview, and he got up to walk away, and he was kind of like appreciative of what I was getting at. And I said to him, the reasoning behind my thinking is because I covered the Sixers when they were going through the process. So I was kind of relating the two, the way he was looking at things and all that. But for Tocchet to be able to change his ways of how he learned the game, I think that's what coaching is all about. And I've said this throughout my whole life, whatever the sport and whatever the level. I think the best coaches are the one that come in and see what needs to be done with that team, as opposed to come in and say, this is how it's going to be done, whether your talent lends to it or not. Yeah. And I think Tocchet's made that right move, right, Ant?
He had 100%, Bob. And here's the thing. Look, I don't want to be the guy who sits here and starts criticizing the coaches the day after they win. I don't know if he's going to be the coach that ultimately gets them where they want to go. Like, in all honesty, I don't know. But I don't think anybody knows, right? I don't think anybody. We have to see what this looks like now come playoffs, all right? But I did believe all along that he was the coach that would get them here. Okay. I wasn't necessarily sure it was like at the beginning of the year. I kind of believed, and up until mid-January, I really believed this was a playoff team. I believed in it. Then they went through a horrible stretch, and he couldn't figure it out. He couldn't fix it. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, now he's going to go off to the Olympics. He was an assistant coach for Team Canada, right? So he's going to be over there. How are they going to rectify this? And then the first game out of the Olympic break, they can't score. They lose a game to the Capitals. They fall 8 points back with 25 to go. And I said, there's no shot. At this point, there was no shot. And then even as recently as March 10th, they were 9 points out of a playoff spot on March 10th. I mean, how could anyone expect that they would come back and do this? But guess what? He did find a way to figure it out. He kept the team believing that they were worthy and that they were good enough. And he kept telling them that. And he kept showing them how resilient they are, right? Like that's good coaching. You got to give him credit. You absolutely have got to give him credit. And
sure.
There are some people who are starting to suggest, and I think it's funny, Ford mentions, just 2 months ago, a ton of people said Tocchet was a bad coach for his team. People were running him out of town, and I do remember that. I've started to see some people suggest that Rick Tocchet could be a candidate for the Jack Adams Award for Coach of the Year. I don't know if he is. I don't think he is. I don't get a vote on that. That's the general managers, I think, vote on that one. But I can understand why his name has started to come into the conversation, at least.
Oh, no question. No question. I love those kind of guys. When I used to have a vote for different things in the NBA, it's easy to look MVP and all. I like the other side votes, like, okay, most improved player, who really improved themselves and their team this year, different things like that. Tocchet has to be thought about, whether, you're going to have your, 100-point teams and all that, and their coaches deservingly will probably get more votes than anyone else. But he is that story. So this team moving forward, and one thing you can't forget, and I don't want to, put water on a fire right now because it's so cool that the Flyers are where they are, but they are a team that was this close to not making the playoffs. And had they not, our conversation changes an awful lot. The problems with this team, and they need this, they need that. What I noticed last night late in the game, Ant, was that Carolina would get the puck in the corners and along the wall. Flyers didn't do a very good job there. They were getting like 3-on-1 getting beat along the boards where Carolina would come out with the puck. And it was just, I'm sitting there, it was like a 5-minute, right around about a 5-minute stretch there late in the third period that the Flyers couldn't get out of their zone. It didn't seem like they had the legs. It didn't seem like they were tough enough. Talk to me about, I don't want to just say deficiencies, but is that a problem coming up in this playoffs with Pittsburgh and moving this club forward? Is that one of the bigger problems you see, or was that just an isolated incident that I saw last night?
Well, I think what you're saying, and let's keep in mind, first and foremost, as good a team as Carolina is, they didn't play 5 of their best players last night. Right. So it could have been even more noticeable if had their best players been in the lineup last night. But they are a very deep team, and Rod Brindamore as a coach there, he's all about puck possession, right? Yep. And keeping and controlling the play. They are usually a team that I call them a possession monster, and they love to suffocate you so you don't get any shots. There was back-to-back games last week. They gave up 10 shots in one game to Columbus, and I think the next night was like 13 for the entire game. 23 shots across 2 games. That's the way they play. And so it's all about them controlling the puck. So you look at it a little bit and say, all right, on one level, that's just Carolina, right? That's the way they play. It's the way they're coached. I don't think it's a major problem for the Flyers, but the Flyers aren't necessarily a great puck possession team either. They're below 50%. They're not super low, but they're about 48% on possession on the season. Is that an issue come the playoffs? It's only an issue if you're giving up shots and your goalie's not making saves.
Right.
Otherwise, if you're keeping the other team to the outside and they're on the wall, even if it's all about conditioning, it's all about structure and staying in your lanes and all those things, having an active stick, all the things you hear coaches talk about. You keep doing that. Doesn't matter how often the other team has the puck, they're not going to score. So, as Jay Sporman points out, and I agree with him, this series will be all about Vladar and power play, penalty kill, special teams. The Penguins have much better special teams, but if Vladar can equalize that, things could even out because the Penguins' goalie situation is not good, and he's right. Like this is a series that's winnable. They're not a massive underdog. I think they're here you go plus 40, 145. So that's not a bad underdog. But I think the further you go in the playoffs, right? Let's just imagine for a minute that the Flyers somehow beat the Penguins. And I think this is a long series, and I think it could go either way. But let's say they get through it. I don't see how they can beat a Carolina in a 7-game series. I just don't. And I think so that's where I think it would end. But that's okay. Like if I told you beginning of the season, Bob, that with all the problems the Flyers have, they don't have a centers, they don't have a number 1 defenseman. At the time, we didn't think that they had a goalie. Their power play would rank last in the NHL. Their penalty kill would be subpar. Their new coach. Their special teams goals against would be minus 20. Right? Like 3rd worst in the NHL. Like if I told you all those things and then said, oh, but by the way, they're going to go to the second round of the playoffs, you take it.
Damn straight. And 96 points in the regular season, and that's not even counting tonight, whatever happens.
Right.
But it is. It's amazing. So there's probably a lot of people, because you've heard it, oh, now sports radio is going to start talking about the Flyers. Where have you been over the last few years? And blah, blah, blah. Which is fine. When you're a fan, you look, I say this all the time. Fan is short for fanatic, so there's no rules for a fanatic. Like, you're just crazy, and that's great. That's what being a sports fan is all about. But for a lot of people that may be just jumping on saying, oh, let me check out this Flyers team, let's talk about some of the individuals here. Now, you're getting Forster back, who's 24 years old. He had I think it was the shoulder, right? Like, I remember the play, took the slap shot. It was the shoulder, right?
Yes.
Right. Had surgery.
They didn't say specifically what the shoulder
upper body.
Was. Yeah. Well, that's hockey, right? But we all know it's a shoulder injury, and he had surgery. Yes.
Right. So he comes back unexpectedly and has been great since he has come back. I'm thinking fresh legs there. Porter Martone, you get out of Michigan State. Luckily, they lose to Wisconsin in the NCAA tournament, and you get to get him early. He's been nothing short of spectacular, I think, since he's been here. So you're talking about a couple of fresh legs there. What else, as far as individuals go, that maybe people that are just coming onto this Flyers bandwagon, should we call it, should the group look out for, the newcomers who are some of the guys that they should look at and say, okay, this is going to be a foundational piece of this team, not just now, but moving forward?
Well, we talked about Zegras a little bit earlier, and he's been great for them this year. I still think there are some deficiencies to his game, but they're not in the offensive end. He's very creative. Scored 26 goals, career high in points. I think he's got 67. I want to say 67 for all you young kids. I think that's what he's at right there. You go, Bobby. So like he's a guy. If you're just coming on board, like you're going to love, and you're going to love watching him play. The guy I'll tell you that has impressed me so much, and I thought last night had a whale of a game, and nobody talked about him. Jamie Drysdale.
Oh,
I think Jamie Drysdale has become a very, very good defenseman. Very good. He's on the second pair. It's where he belongs. He shouldn't be top pair, but he's a reliable, very good defenseman. Skates hard, breaks up plays. He made a couple of plays yesterday. There was a breakaway that he came from behind, and rather than take the penalty, he was able to work his way around the I forget who the player was on Carolina, but work his way around the guy and kind of deny the stick on the shot. So the shot
exactly
off, right?
Yeah.
Drysdale has made a huge impact. And listen, Todd Reirden, as an assistant coach for this Flyers team, he's known for coaching defensemen. You look at the improvements with Drysdale. You look at how Ristolainen has played, especially since the Olympics. Like, you look at it and go, this was all about coaching. These guys needed to be coached up, and they finally got a guy here as an assistant coach. Not to say that Brad Shaw wasn't a good defensive coach, but he didn't take them to another level. And I think Todd Reirden is taking them to another level. And I hope the Flyers can keep Todd Reirden, because I think his name might come up in if there's coaching vacancies in the offseason. I hope that the Flyers can figure out a way to keep him, because they got some more young kids coming, like this David Jiricek, who's probably going to make his NHL debut tonight in the game. I know game doesn't matter, but he's a guy that they got in the trade for Bobby Brink. He's going to be a big part of the future. He's signed a contract that's NHL only, and he's not waiver. He can't be. He would have to go on waivers if they wanted to send him down. So he's going to be part of the team next year. No questions asked. Like, that's going to matter. You got Oliver Bonk coming. He was one of those top 100 prospects I talked about with the Athletic. He's coming. Like that. Like, that's going to matter too. So I look at Jamie Drysdale. I look at Rasmus Ristolainen, and I say, for the playoffs, those guys are worth watching, because they play a very, very good brand of the game.
Now, one of the fan favorites, obviously, is Travis Konechny.
Yeah.
TK struggled a little bit lately, it seems like, and I'm watching him last night, and I'm trying to decide, is it tired legs? Is it something else? Other guys are, I hate this phrase, but stepping up, and maybe the puck doesn't find him as often. What are you seeing from Konechny lately?
Yeah, I don't think their line was all that great last night. I know TK plays through a lot of injuries, and it's a hockey thing, Bob. You know this. I know this. It's not. This is the complete opposite of the NBA, right? Like, it's the and so I'm serious with that. Like, there is
I totally agree with you.
There's no load management in the NHL. It's just, if you could, those guys, if they can lace up the skates, they're going to go out there and play. They don't care, even if they're 60% of themselves. Konechny will never use it as an excuse. That's not his nature, but his nature is to play through injury. Sometimes he's done it with success. If I recall earlier this year, he had a pretty bad foot injury after blocking a shot, and he scored a hat trick that same game on one leg, right? Like, it was a heroic effort that game. But then he has games potentially like last night where it's affecting him, and it's not. He's not as effective on the ice.
Does he have something particular going on now, Ant?
We don't. Nothing that has been told to us.
Okay.
Nothing that we've.
Well, they never tell you anyway. So,
right. Yeah, but sometimes you find out, right? Sometimes guys will say something or whatever. You kind of get in a sense from what's bothering them. But no, there's nothing that he talks about, and he never likes talking about it either. So that's what I would tell you, Bob. I would say that, does he need to play better come the playoffs? Yeah, but at the same time, if he's playing through something, you can kind of understand if there's a slight step behind.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he gets a couple of days off here. Maybe he's out tonight. Maybe he only plays, I don't know, 5 minutes or so tonight, and you can get some of those guys.
I think we'll notice, and they should be. I don't think there's going to be a morning skate today, but when we see the lineup later today, the guys that are out, while some of them might be for protect them a little bit, I also think some of them are to heal up a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll know by looking at who Rick takes out of the lineup who those guys are. Right.
All right. Last thing I wanted to bring up to you is the captain of this team, and it's you and I have talked about it a little bit. You know how you watch a game, and I don't care the sport. There's always somebody that like will catch your eye, whether it's positive or negative. And when they're on the ice, the field, the court, whatever it may be, you find yourself kind of attracted to them. Sean Couturier is that guy for me, and it's in a frustrating way. And I have a friend that's not a fan. I don't want to say he turned me on to this, but he brought it to my attention. And there's been like, in my eyes, like more bad than good. And it's whatever. It's probably a biased way of looking at it, but got to give him his props. He gets moved to the fourth line, has really excelled, had some time taken away, which at his age, injuries, where he is, I always thought it was good. I didn't like when I looked at a box score and I saw 18 minutes from Couturier, and you kind of see nothing. One hit, one shot on goal. I know he wins faceoffs and that. But this new role, he's really seemed to accept. He's talked openly about it, and he's thrived. And is this just a really good move by Rick Tocchet, and one that was probably really hard to make with your captain?
Yeah, it's funny. I wrote a story about this the other day. They started talking about this back in November. When to do it, and they would trot it out like in games here and there, not with any regularity, but here and there. Like you would find Sean Couturier's playing some fourth line minutes. Then he would bounce back, put him back on the second line or put him back on the first line, whatever. But here and there, and they tried it out, and they came to the determination that this would work. This could work on the fourth line when the games mattered more. And that was a tough conversation. But the way that I think Rick handled it, and it made a lot of sense, is he said to him, listen, you're still going to take all the key faceoffs. You're still going to be killing penalties. You're still going to be a really big part of what we're doing. This isn't like a fourth line that only plays 8-9 minutes, right? I mean, with the way that the schedule is condensed this year because of the Olympics, fourth line is going to have to play a regular turn. It's going to get 15 minutes a night, okay? So it's like we're only going to take a couple minutes away from you of ice time, but it's going to be more about quality and less about quantity. And you're going to get more quality playing in this role on this line than you would if you were playing higher up the lineup and struggling, playing more minutes.
Right.
And what it's allowed him to do, there's two things that are happening here. So I think an under-the-radar move by Briere was picking up Luke Glendening off the waiver wire. Not a lot of people are going to talk about Luke Glendening, 36-year-old veteran, who's bounced around the league, right, a bunch of different teams. But what Luke Glendening brings is he's another face-off guy. And so you look at the fourth line and go, okay, if we play Couturier with Glendening, Couturier takes the draws on the left side, Glendening takes the draws on the right side. And when depending on where the draws are, the other guy plays the wing. And so when you're playing on the wing, you have less ground to cover on the ice, right? You don't have to skate as hard, and you could be a little bit more physical in the offensive end. That's the one thing you take notice whenever Couturier is out there. All of a sudden, Sean Couturier has become like this checker that you didn't have before, right? Like, where did that come from? And that's what it is. And it's because of this hybridized role that they've created for him. And I think it was so smart and was such a win. And it's to the point now, Bob, where I think there was a time during the season when things were really going bad, where you were looking ahead to the future and you said, man, do they just buy out Couturier? What do they do with this contract? And now you look at it and say, why would you buy him out? Yeah, he's overpaid, but if you bought him out, it was about, I think it's like $6.6 million would count against your cap. You would then need to replace Couturier with another guy in free agency, who would probably make about $2 million a year. So would you rather go get some scrap heap guy that you got to pay $2 million and have 6.6 in dead money, or would you rather have Sean Couturier?
Yeah. And you have to remember all the equity that he's built up.
right
in the locker room as the captain. He's a captain for a reason. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, and here's another great comment from Jay. He says, got to give Coots credit for accepting that role. How many of our Philly captains, stars would be so humble?
Well, not a lot outside of hockey.
Correct.
Those are hockey guys. Like that's what hockey players are. And former Flyers coach John Stevens and I, we became pretty good friends because we belonged to the same swim club. I was amazed at how often we just sat around, maybe having a beverage, and just talking about life, or him casually bringing up moving out of his house at 14 years old to a stranger's and living on a tobacco farm and doing that farming because he could play there, and whatever. It's just hockey players are such a different breed.
Yeah, they are. They just really are.
Yeah, there's no captain in any other sport that would do that. All right, we have to move on. Flyers, obviously the big story in town, but there is another team that's in the, do we call it the playoffs, Ant? I'll call it the postseason because it's not the regular season. It's after the regular season. We can say postseason. So we'll talk about the Sixers and also
but not the playoffs.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And also the Phillies, they dusted off their bats a little bit last night. And we saw some pretty cool things offensively. So when we get back, we'll talk about both of those teams. Stick with us here on Pattison Podcast. Bob Cooney, Anthony SanFilippo.
Penn Community Bank, we're your financial partner for all of life's moments. Our checking accounts are designed with you in mind, providing convenient access and 5-star mobile and online banking services to help you achieve your goals. Right now, you can earn a $350 cash bonus for opening a qualifying new checking account with direct deposits in the first 60 days. Visit PennCommunityBank.com/cash bonus to learn more. Penn Community Bank, here we grow. Offer terms and conditions apply. Limited time offers subject to change. As for full details, member FDIC.
Ventresca Limited, the Delaware Valley men's store, is located in historic Doylestown. For casual clothing in denim to business suits and tuxedos, Ventresca Limited has a large selection you have to see to believe. The experienced and knowledgeable sales staff can show you the many brand labels that have made Ventresca Limited in Doylestown a must for men concerned about their image. Select from Canali, Brax Jeans, Hickey Freeman, Johnson Murphy Footwear, and much more. Custom alterations are free. Visit Ventresca Limited on the web at ventresca.com.
The Peruzzi Automotive Group on Business Route 1 in Fairless Hills is looking for auto techs, all skill levels. Here's a chance to work for a locally owned family business that offers many benefits. For more information, call the service director, John Damarotis, at 215-943-6200. That's 215-943-6200, or visit any Peruzzi service department.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Come join us for happy hour weekdays from 4 to 6. Enjoy half-price orders of Chicky's wings, delicious pizzas, scrumptious hot, cold, or fried shrimp, jumbo soft pretzel with a trio of tasty dips, plus $3 domestic bottles, $6 Tito's, and $6 seltzers. Come join our happy hour weekdays 4 to 6. Come taste and enjoy, only at Chicky's and Pete's.
Hey, welcome back to On Pattison Podcast. Sorry about that. That's live podcasting for you right there. Bob Cooney here with Anthony SanFilippo. Want to remind you, winners win. Wapner Newman has been winning for families throughout the Philadelphia area and New Jersey since 1978. You need a winner? Well, all you have to do is call Wapner Newman at 215-569-0900, or you can visit them at wapnernewman.com. So, Ant, we're getting back to the other sports in town now that the Flyers have just taken over this city. The Phillies last night get you 13 runs. Christopher Sanchez with a pretty good outing, shorter outing, but that's fine at this point in the season, and they got a big lead, a couple of home runs from Schwarber. All of those things, like, look, just like losing 2-0 in a game where you had 3 hits, these 13-run games are going to happen early in a season. But the talking point around the city, and I heard some more of it today when I was driving my son to his program and, Sports Talk Radio, is Rob Thompson. And you and I you've been around them a lot more than I have, but I was with them for the last half of last year. And there's some strong opinions going around by people that are heard in this city that maybe have barely even talked to Rob Thompson or been behind the scenes. What's your take? What's your take on Rob Thompson? He comes out after Bryce Harper tries to turn a single into a double again and gets thrown out at second. I say again, but guess what? Are the people that are putting him down for that counting how many times he's turned a single into a double with sheer hustle? I think they have a probably some kind of analytics that say, look, we're going to try to be aggressive on the base pass. We're going to get thrown out 8 times, but the people have to count the 25 times we do take the extra base. That's how I'm thinking it goes. But certain people in this town, they're sick of Rob Thompson, and they're not afraid to vocalize it. I'm not of that. I'm just not. I think the guy does a good job. His wins talk for themselves. We've seen kick you in the ass coaches in this town. We've seen more laid back coaches. You brought it up with Tortorella and Tocchet. Where do you stand with Rob Thompson and the job that he's done and the job that he is doing right now?
So first thing I have to say about this, Bob, is when it comes to baseball, it's interesting that the guy is called a manager and not a coach.
Yeah, right.
Well, there's a reason, right?
Yeah, there is.
Because this is not necessarily about coaching players as much as it is about managing personalities.
Yeah.
And the best managers are the ones who know how to manage their people the best. And I think Rob Thompson does a very good job of managing his people. Are there going to be calls that I disagree with, that he makes strategic decisions as a manager that I sit there and go, well, that wasn't the right decision, or I don't think this was right. And sometimes I'm right, sometimes he's right. But I would tell you that you watch any baseball game in any city, in any market, between any two teams, and you're going to have the same things come up, right? Like, you're not going to sit there and go, wow, that guy, he pushes the button right 100% of the time. Just doesn't happen, right? Just that's the sport of baseball. But I think Rob does a very, very good job of managing the people he's got in the clubhouse. And the thing that I don't begrudge Destiny asking the question that she asked. I actually thought it was a very good question that she asked yesterday.
Yeah, and it was one that people wanted to hear, right, Ann?
Right. Yeah.
And that's why we're here.
Yeah, and people wanted the answer to that question, and she asked it, and she asked it the right way. It wasn't, an in-your-face kind of question, but it was a fair question. And Rob gave an answer, and I thought Rob's answer was fine.
Real quick, just for people who maybe didn't hear it. Her question was along the lines of, did you go to, now correct me if I'm wrong, did you go to Bryce Harper and say something about the mistake he made on the base pass?
Well, the way she phrased it was more about people don't think that you hold players accountable.
Exactly. That's what it was.
And so, like, he talked about the play with Bryce, and he says he knows it was wrong. Like, this is the second day in a row where he said that Bryce Harper made a mistake on that particular play because it was clear that it was only going to be a single. Like, he should never have been. It's okay to be aggressive sometimes. That was one that it was 100% of the situation. You should not go, and Bryce went, right? So when he says that, but to me, that's hearing Rob say that the way he said it, he knows it was wrong. That tells me that conversation is quietly had behind the scenes.
Absolutely. No question in my mind.
Right?
Yeah.
Quietly had behind the scenes.
And you and I have been privy to that.
Yes.
That we know that conversations are had that the general public just doesn't know about. Like, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that we as reporters don't know about, or that we as reporters do know but don't know the exactness of it. But yeah, it's not like a mistake happens and they look at each other and that's it. I mean, there's talk like, hey, Bryce, be better on your decisions. Or how about this, Ant? How about Harper comes off the field and gets in the dugout and goes, darn it, that was stupid. And Thompson hears it. Why do I have to address it? Turnover. Yeah, let's be better on our decisions. That's all.
Yeah.
Boom.
Exactly.
He's 33 years old, a multiple All-Star, multiple MVP. If you really think as an outsider looking in that he's got to hold him accountable or he should sit him on the bench for the game, seriously? And you're comparing it, and I'm not calling out anybody, but I've heard people, you're comparing it to how you teach your kids? No. No, it's not along
not how
those
it
lines
works.
at all.
Yeah, it's not how it works. I mean, you're also paying the guy, $330 million. You don't want to take him out of the lineup.
No, that causes more harm than good.
Right? I mean, it does. And so, and you're right. We know that these conversations occur. We know that there have been conversations that have been blow-up conversations, just like they would in any job, right? I mean, anytime, you disagree with your boss. That's why the whole Castellanos thing last year became so big, was because it was public, right? It was in the dugout, and there was, the whole notion of it could be seen by everybody. That's not what it's supposed to be. The professionalism is pull the guy aside, call him into your office, talk to him one-on-one on the field. Rob's told us many times. He said we were, I remember at the winter meetings, he was sitting there, and we were sitting. I was sitting right next to him. He was showing me pictures of himself dog sledding on his iPad, right? And he said that watch when he goes out on the field, and he walks around when he's carrying that fungo bat, right, and during batting practice or fielding practice, and he walks around to different guys. That's a lot of times when conversations are happening.
Sure,
we're not going to do it in front of cameras. We're not going to do it while you guys are standing in the clubhouse, right? And could report on what's being said or what's being, how animated it is. He said, we're going to do it in places that are less noticeable. And that's it. So I know that those conversations are happening. So I don't think that he's not holding people accountable. And the last thing I want to say about this, Bob, is I think Rob Thompson and all managers, whether I think you're a good manager or a bad manager, the amount of impact you have on a game is minimal.
Yeah.
Minimal. The players impact the game. The players dictate wins and losses. A manager, maybe 1 to 2 games a year, maybe. I really don't. And I feel this way about coaches too. I don't think that they impact the games as much as fans think they do.
Yeah.
I don't. It's more about managing the people. Are you good at managing your team and coaching your team, being how they are together, building an environment and a culture and a way, a process of doing things. Are you good at that? If you are, your team will be successful. If you're not, your team probably won't be successful and you won't be in a job long. That, to me, that's how you're measured. I don't think you're measured by, the decisions you make in game as much.
No, and for those calling for an ass kicking type of a manager for the Phillies, that's what they need. Complacency has set in. I got to tell you, I'm not sure how a Bryce Harper, a JT Realmuto, all the veterans, a Zach Wheeler, those guys, Aaron Nola, that have been around for a while. Really, I'm 33 years old. I've been playing this game for 25 years, and I've been in this major league for so long. I'm going to react better to a guy who's on my ass, once, twice a week for 6 months.
Yeah.
That's the things you have to think of with those things. And I'll tell you, being around Rob Thompson and the players talking about him like I was a lot last year and I have so far this year, I think there's just a mutual respect that he lets us go. If I'm a player talking, he lets us go about our business. When something needs to be talked about, he'll talk to us about it, and we respect that. And the Castellanos thing's a perfect example. We went in. You and I were together going. What happened with Castellanos? Did you talk to him? I talked to him. We talked.
Yeah.
What was said? Well, that'll stay between us. But he came over and asked me about his playing time the other day. I closed the door and we sat and talked about it.
Yeah.
Sorry, people that want to hear more. We're not hearing more. We can't report what he said because that's the type of manager he is. Now, could some things be different? Complacency is a word that I just used, Ant, and I want to ask you about this. Is there complacency among this Phillies team, even though they've been successful? Is there a complacency? And if there is it okay because they're a 95-plus win team? Or is it something that has to change and be tweaked a little bit in your mind?
Can it be both, Bob?
You can have whatever you want, Ant.
Well, I'm asking. The reason why I say that is because I do think there's a level of complacency that is acceptable, right? I do think that because they've been a successful team for several years in a row, and they won 96 games last year and back-to-back division champions. You can be complacent to a point. And what I mean by that is you can be complacent to our process works. So why are we going to do something different? Where I think you run the risk of going too far with that is you can't just assume it's always going to work forever and ever and ever.
Right.
And at some point you need to sit there and say, okay, what's not working and what might we need to change, even if it's something that has been a long-standing process that we've done, right? At some point, something might get to you. You might sit there and go, all right, we've done this way for 5 years, but now it's run its course. We have to try something different. And I think that's fair. And if they don't do that, then they do run the risk of having the same thing happen to them again in October that happened to them the last few years. But I do think that you still have time before you get to that point, and a lot can happen. You know, it's funny. I forget who I was talking to. The other day, I was talking to somebody about baseball, and I said, you know, go back and look at in recent years. You know, the year the Topper gets hired, Girardi was 21-31. The Phillies made the World Series.
Yeah.
The year the Washington Nationals won the World Series, they were 12 games under 500. You know, Toronto Blue Jays last year were not very good, and then they were 1 centimeter away from winning the World Series,
yeah.
right? It's so like baseball is such a long season that you cannot, and even like if even the year the Phillies got off to that great start, remember, was it 24? They got off to that tremendous start. They were setting all kinds of records. They were on like 116 win pace. Like you can't get too high on that. And you can't get too low on a bad start either. Like the season just turns it around. The Mets a couple years ago, when the Phillies lost to them in the playoffs, they were dead and buried in June.
Oh, no
and then
question.
all of a sudden they were in the NLCS. Like it can turn on a dime. The Flyers are an example this year, right? Like we just got done talking about them. They were the first team in the history of hockey to overcome a 9-point deficit in less than 22 games. Like you can turn it around and turn it around quick. That's the nature of the sport. It's too early to get too panicky about where the Phillies are.
It's funny what you just said reminded me of a story that that Brett Brown, former Sixers coach, shared with me. And he was like, Coon, we used to win. We would roll out 60-win seasons as easily as you open the toothpaste and brush your teeth every day. He goes, that's just what we did with Greg Popovich. We knew we were going to win 60 games. He said, but when there got to be maybe 30, 25 games left in the season, he started to figure out how this team works best. And then things would change. And then, and even to the point where San Antonio came off of an NBA championship and totally changed their offensive philosophy to be a pass-first team. They played like a European game with the likes of Tony Duncan and Parker and Ginobili, like those guys. They totally changed their offense and became an even better team. Yeah. Like you're right. As soon as you said that, can I have both? That's what I started to think of. That's the story that popped into my mind. So let's do this. Let's give you the both. All right. Complacency is good because it leads with this team. Complacency is fine to lead you to 92, 93, 94 wins, whatever. If there is something to tweak, if there is a shoe to drop, so to speak, not that it's major, it could be maybe not even a shoe. Maybe it's just a shoelace that gets dropped. What would you think it would be? And or what do you think it should be maybe?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because, I mean, you always immediately jump to the outfield, right? And say, but look, Justin Crawford's got off to a nice start. I think there's some things that I've seen from Adolis Garcia that make me think he'll be fine in right field. Marsh, we know he hits righties. I don't know if Otto Kemp is, I know he's a baseball player, but I mean, I don't know.
He's a ball player. He's a championship ball player.
He's a ball player, right? I don't know if he's the answer. So maybe you need a right-handed bat for the outfield. But I think the thing that they're going to look for the most at come July is another third baseman. I really do.
Yeah.
Bob, I go back and I think about it and I say there was no question. I mean, we all know this, that they thought that they were signing Bo Bichette. All right. And then it didn't happen. He used the Phillies to steal $45 million from the Mets. But Bo Bichette wasn't coming here to play second base or shortstop. He was coming here to play third base.
Right.
And so Alec Bohm was going to be traded. They were going to move on. When it doesn't happen, Alec Bohm becomes plan B. But the second part of plan B was if Alec Boehm's not hitting, well, we got this kid Aiden Miller who's going to come in and he's going to be ready to go by midseason, and he'll come up and take that spot. Well, now Aiden Miller has got the back issue, and he's weeks, if not months, away from playing baseball. So he's probably no longer a plan B for 2026. So what's plan C? Plan C is you upgrade the position at the deadline. And I think that when you start putting the math together, I think that's where the Phillies look to go and to improve the team and potentially find that bat that they need for the middle of their lineup at that position at the deadline.
Would you have made a push for Eugenio Suarez during the offseason?
I get it. I understand why.
Your answer says no so far.
Well, yeah, because again, I'm a guy who believes in a well-rounded game, right? And Eugenio Suarez does one thing well. He hits home runs.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that,
no.
right? And that would be nice in the middle of this lineup. But he's got a 220 batting average. He's
strikes out 200 times. Yeah.
Strikes out 200 times. You have enough strikeouts in your lineup. He's terrible defensively at third base. So now you just weaken. So for the one thing about Alec Boehm that has improved over the years is his defensive play at third base. He's actually made himself into a decent defensive third baseman.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Right? I don't know. Yeah, you get more home runs, but I think you lack everywhere else. Like everything else drops off. That's why I wouldn't have made the move there personally.
Yeah.
But you got to see what's available and see what you can try and get at the deadline, because I do think you do need to fix third base in some capacity.
Third base and that fourth outfielder. I'm on board with you. I'm okay with Alec Boehm, but with the way this team's constructed, like Alec Boehm would be fine if you had, and I've said this to you, and I've been saying it for the last 2 years, if you had like Luis Ariz at second base, and that guy's getting, hitting 330 and he's on base all the time. And when you need a fly ball, you get it. And when you need a runner to move from second to third on a ball to the right-hand side of the field, you get it.
Yeah.
If that guy's there, then I can deal with the Bohms, but you just don't have that. So I'm kind of leaning towards what you said. Yeah, you got to upgrade third base. And the fourth outfielder, Otto Kemp's a great kid. Really like him a lot.
Yeah.
I don't love him as much as Dombrowski and Rob Thompson do, apparently.
Yeah.
And when Anthony and I alluded to, he's a ball player. He's a championship ball player. That's what we were told all of last season by the higher-ups at the Phillies. And, God bless him. I hope he has a great career, but I just don't know. I don't know, but we will see. All right, let's do this, and to close this show out, we do have another team that is hitting the postseason. That will be tomorrow night. That's when the 76ers host the Orlando Magic in the 7-8 play-in game. So if the Sixers win, boom, they're automatically the 7th seed. Boom, you have a Saturday or Sunday opening round series beginning in Boston. Should the Sixers lose on Wednesday night, well, then they would host the winner of the 9-10 game, which is between Charlotte and Miami. If the Sixers win that game on Friday, then they would become the 8th seed and therefore would probably play Sunday, since they're playing Sunday in Detroit against the number 1 seed. Sounds a little complicated, but if the Sixers win tomorrow night, they're in Boston. I don't like the matchup with Boston. I don't think the Sixers can get through a series with Boston. I don't care if they had Joel Embiid or not. I don't think they can beat the New York Knicks. The Detroit Pistons, being as they're like a young team to this number 1 seeding, that might be a little bit of an advantage that the Sixers have. But what do you think? Is there any excitement that you're feeling, or I don't know, about this Sixers team right now, especially now that Embiid's out? Because I got to tell you, I've been surprised at how demonstrative the fans have been in the arena throughout the whole season. It's constant sellouts. It's excitement. It's, really, really on board with the team. I just don't know if they have enough moving forward.
Yeah, I was starting to feel excitement before Embiid had the appendectomy.
Yeah.
Like I was starting to look at it and going, all right, Paul George came back off that suspension, playing some pretty good basketball.
Yep.
Right. And then you got Maxey and you got VJ, and Embiid's looking like Embiid, and they did it the right way. They kept him till he's going to be healthy for the playoffs for the first time. And whether they got the 6th seed and were playing New York, or whether they were going to do this play-in thing, whatever, I kind of felt like that was a good, like if Embiid was healthy, I actually liked them against New York. Right?
Oh, really? Okay.
I would have been okay with them against the Knicks if Embiid were healthy. As soon as that happened, as soon as I saw your tweet about the fact that he had an appendectomy, and I was like, that's it, we're done. It's over.
It kind of is. And one of the things about Nick Nurse that I'm trying to figure out, and he and I've asked him questions about it, is he is constantly looking for the matchup against the other team. Should we go with Andre Drummond? Should we go with the Dembona? All of that. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, if you're rolling out there, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, a very athletic VJ Edgecombe, and then whoever else, shouldn't you be looking like, well, they're going to have to match up against us?
Right.
I never got that feeling with him, and maybe this is why he's the head coach and I'm not. Maybe he foresaw that things weren't going to play out exactly like I just laid out. So, yeah, it's a matchup thing for him. It's something he's continuously trying to do, even to the point of, he said before game 82 that among Dominic Barlow and among Justin Edwards and I'm missing somebody else, he was still trying to figure out who that come off the bench forward is going to be behind Paul George. It's still kind of up in the air. I don't know who the starting center is going to be.
Watford?
Yeah, I think they've given up on Trendon Watford. That's probably it. It's probably among Edwards and Barlow. And, they keep talking about, well, Barlow gives you great minutes. When he's paired with Joel Embiid, he really gets – Joel Embiid's not there anymore. And when he's not, Dominic Barlow, I love his hustle and all that, he doesn't give you jack crap. So, like, they're in some kind of trouble here. They don't know if they're going to go physical with center in Drummond or if they're going to have a center that's more mobile in Bona. He's still trying to figure his own team out, let alone if things go well, oh, my God, now you got to match up with the Celtics. I just, people are saying, well, this is good because you can see what Maxey and what Edgecombe are come playoff time, and it'll help you in the future. You're going to find out what they are when they're double teamed all the time. Tyrese Maxey is not going to have two guys in his grill, like at any point during these play-ins, playoffs, postseason, whatever you want to call it. And then, Edgecombe is also going to have people running at them because Drummond's not going to hurt you. Bona's not going to hurt you. Kelly Oubre, whatever. It's just, this is a tough time for the Sixers. And Joel Embiid being out is just, we're almost used to it by now. But it's like our fifth divorce or something like that, right, Ant? You kind of just get used to it.
Yeah, no, I know we are. I don't know. I don't know about you, Bob, but you can't. Nobody's going to ever lose on purpose. But do you almost look at this team and say, "Hey, you know what? Yeah, don't worry about the Orlando game. Just go beat Charlotte or Miami, and then go play Detroit, and you have a better path forward. And maybe if you could pull off that first round upset." Maybe Joel can get back at some point, and then all of a sudden it's interesting again.
Well, what I'll say to that is, one, and I don't know if you are this either. I never am like, don't worry about not winning. Like I'm just crazy like that. Like I want to win everything. I want to, all that. So I never would ever ask my team, don't worry about that. Also, has that worked for them in the past? No. Not winning. Like, they did it for 6 years and it never really came to fruition. I like I said, I think I would rather see what a Maxey and Edgecombe, what they do against a Boston team, what they do against a terrific organization that's going to just kill you because of their schematics, let alone their talent. I would like to see how they perform against who I think is the better team in Boston. But
okay.
That's why I'm not a head coach, yeah.
Well, no, but that's fair. I mean, look, it would be an interesting, it'd be interesting to watch Sixers Celtics in the playoffs again. Like everybody would love that. I mean, it's good TV, right? It's good ratings.
Yeah.
But I look at that matchup and I go, yeah, they're done first round.
Oh, no question. So right? Do I. And I don't even Detroit. Detroit's a tough team. I don't know if they could beat them either, but we'll see what happens. All right, listen, we have to wrap this. Go ahead.
Real quick. I got a guy who comes on my podcast, the hockey podcast, all the time, and he hopped on today for the first time. He says he had to tune in my buddy's podcast today. We're buddies. Like I don't know Tony at all. We had a big argument on the phone once when he called into the show. But says I'm untouchable right now. It's because I've been getting everything right. So I appreciate you, Tom. Thanks.
Well,
thanks.
I was never thinking of touching Anthony, so I'm glad he's untouchable. So that works for me. All right, real quick, the Masters. What'd you think? Did you get a chance to watch? You're the busiest man I've ever known, and I'm proud today that it's early. Well, it's not early. It's 11:15, but we're doing a podcast today. I'm headed over to Sixers practice from here, and then I'm going to right after Sixers practice, going to write my story and then head over to the Phillies game tonight. So I'm putting in. I told my wife, I'm putting in an Anthony SanFilippo day. This is your normal day, what I'm doing today.
Yes. I'm normally up at 6 a.m.
Yeah, like most of us adults are, right?
Yeah, and sitting in front of my computer by 6:30. And then I go straight through to the end of the night, whether it's 11 o'clock at night or whatever. It's like it's nonstop. So, but Sunday, I actually took a day off, Bob. I didn't do anything on Sunday. Went out. My oldest son plays in a softball league. I went and watched his game, and then we went to the bar afterwards, and we sat there at the bar. And we had two TVs in front of us. One had the Phillies and one had the Masters.
Oh, that's
and we watched both. Day. It was great. Couple beers, watching both. It was really good.
Oh, really good. Great Masters also. I thought it was so much fun. Yeah. It excited me to no end that we are going to be at Aronimink and give our listeners and watchers coverage from there. We've applied for our credentials, and we hope that we get accepted. No matter what, I'm going to be there. Because my kids were nice enough for my I had a big birthday recently, and for that and Christmas, they got me tickets to go to Aronimink. So no matter what, I'll be there, and we will have coverage for you there. But Rory McIlroy, all the big names are going to be in our hometown next month at Aronimink, and it'll be a lot of fun. And I think golf, that was one of the reasons it excited me. It was such a great tournament. We're going to have that here in less than a month, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. I'll tell you, I was as I was sitting there, and look, Rory it was a great round. The way he played, and especially after he fell off after the third round, I was pulling for Justin Rose. That guy is constantly in the top 5 at the Masters. He's constantly there. He's now he's been a runner-up 3 times now. I
believe so. Yeah.
And he's still not been able to pull it off. And at one point, I guess he was on like 11 or 12. I forget what hole it was. And he had the lead. And I'm going, he's going to do this. And then they flashed up on the screen that if he did, he would be the second oldest player to ever win the Masters. And I'm like, oh, now I have even more reason to root for the guy. Right?
We love age, don't we?
Yeah. 45-year-old guy to go out and win the Masters championship. Like, that would be awesome. And then he fell apart.
Yeah, he was the winner at Merion in 2013. Right. He won the U.S. Open at Merion, and during this weekend, there's a great picture of him sitting with the U.S. Open trophy in front of him, with all the newspapers, local newspapers, and some out of state spread around him. And we were all happy because the Daily News was prominently right there with the headline "Just in Time." For him winning, and he was so gracious and so much fun to cover. We are looking so forward as we're expanding our coverage on everything here at On Pattison. Golf is one of the bigger things that we're diving into. So, like I said, look forward to that. We're going to have great coverage for you from Aronimink, but also in the meantime, we got Sixers, we got your Phillies, and Anthony is all over your playoff bound Flyers. So we can't wait to bring you some more of that stuff.
And I'll be in Pittsburgh. I will be in Pittsburgh for games 1 and 2. So
yes, you will. So here's how it went. Coin toss. Does Bob go to Boston or does Anthony go to Pittsburgh? Anthony won. He gets the better, bigger story, which is awfully cool. But we're going to have feet on the ground for when the Sixers are in the playoffs in Boston also. If that does happen, or it could be Detroit, or it could be none at all. We'll see what happens. But Ant, so much fun doing the podcast with you for the first time. I hope it's the first of many.
Yes, absolutely, Bobby. We'll do this again maybe later this week. We'll have to discuss that. See who's going to.
You got it. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Pattison Podcast. We will be back at you very shortly. Until then, keep reading. We appreciate you.